Welcome to the concluding episode of Discovering the Creation of the Universe and the Divine, featuring distinguished physicist, author, and MIT professor Dr. Alan Lightman. In his essay, The Temporary Universe, Dr. Lightman states how everything in our universe, even the sun, moon, and stars, is impermanent.
One of the central beliefs of Buddhism is that everything is impermanent, that everything is passing away. And one thing that we've learned from science is that everything is impermanent. We once thought that atoms were indestructible, and now we know that atoms can be split. We once thought that stars were permanent and eternal, and we now know that stars eventually use up their nuclear fuel and burn out. So even in science, we've learned that everything in nature is impermanent. Energy and matter, the two combined, cannot be created or destroyed, just transformed. When I say that everything is impermanent, I mean that all structures are impermanent. Every structure will eventually disintegrate.
Since matter cannot be destroyed, what happens to the physical elements in our body when we pass away? Dr. Lightman explains.
When we die, my view is that the atoms in our body just disperse. They become part of the soil, become part of the air, become part of the oceans, and eventually our atoms will become parts of other people. So if you could label each one of your atoms with your social security number and follow it after your death, you would find that some of your atoms became part of the soil, some of them became part of the air, some of them became part of the water, and eventually you would find some of your atoms in other people. If you look at individual atoms, our individual atoms will persist. They will continue, and they will become parts of other structures and parts of other living beings, parts of animals, parts of plants. There's some atoms in my body right now that probably were part of Galileo, or part of Genghis Khan, or even part of Lao Tzu. So the atoms continue. But I don't think that that's the same as consciousness. I think consciousness requires a lot of neurons and a lot of connections between them, and that's a very special arrangement of atoms.
Although scientists have conducted considerable research on the brain, many questions are still unanswered. Especially mysterious is the relationship between the brain and consciousness.
We know a lot about the brain, but there are a lot of things that we don't know about the brain. We don't really understand what consciousness is, for example, which is to me is one of the greatest mysteries of science. What is it that gives us this feeling of having a self, of having an ego, of being a being that is separate from the rest of the universe? What is it that gives us that feeling? Somehow it's produced by all of the electrical and chemical exchanges of the neurons, but how? We don't understand that. So it's a wonderful mystery in science, and maybe mystery in the humanities as well. What is consciousness, and how does it come about? Can we build a computer that is conscious? Could we build a computer that had enough artificial neurons that it could think? Could we build a computer that is aware of itself? These are great questions that we don't know the answer to yet.
Cherished viewers, we'll take a moment now to thank the Divine for the magnificent universe in which we live. We'll be back after the following message. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Welcome back to our program as Dr. Alan Lightman shares his thoughts on the relationship between science and spirituality.
I think that the scientific world, or the physical world, and the spiritual world are separate. I think they have their separate domains of validity. I think they are both important to us as human beings. But I think that the material world and the spiritual world have separate domains. They come together in individual people because I consider myself a spiritual person and I'm also a scientist. So within me, there is both a spiritual side and a material side.
In addition to being a distinguished scientist, Dr. Lightman has had spiritual experiences for which there is no scientific explanation. For example, one summer, he had a life-altering encounter with 2 wild ospreys.
The experience that I had was that the 2 young ospreys that had watched me all summer as they were growing up in their nests not far from my house. When they took their first flight, they began flying straight towards me, and I was on an upper deck of my house. I got about 10 or 20 feet away. They suddenly did an acceleration, an upward turn, and went up and over the house. But for a split second before they did that acceleration up and over the house, they made eye contact with me. I'd been watching these baby ospreys grow up all summer long, and I've never had any communication with any animal that was that intense. And I felt in that split second, they were telling me that we're brothers. We have shared this land together, and go in peace. And it was a wonderful feeling, a kinship with these wild animals, that we were all living beings sharing this piece of land together. It was an incredible experience.
On another occasion, Dr. Lightman also had a life-altering spiritual experience. It occurred late one night in Maine, USA, as he was returning home by boat.
I was coming back alone in my boat one night after midnight. There were no other boats on the water. It was very dark, clear sky, and I lay down in the boat and turned off the engine, and it got even quieter, and I just looked up at the stars. And after a few moments, I felt like I was falling into infinity. I felt like I was part of something much bigger than myself. I felt a connection not only to the stars, but to all of nature. That was what I would call a spiritual experience, or transcendent experience, where I lost all track of my body and where I was and what time it was, and just felt this connection. And for me, that's what spirituality is, that feeling of being part of something larger than ourselves, of being connected to the whole cosmos.
Dr. Lightman explains that in order to have a deeper understanding of the wonders around us, we need to spend more time in nature.
I think that our modern life has pushed us away from nature. You go into a park where people are walking in a beautiful place and you see them talking on their smartphones, instead of just looking around and appreciating the beauty, the natural beauty of where they are. I think that our modern lifestyle is too fast, that we're always rushing from A to B without taking time to just be present and appreciating the moment, of slowing down and just appreciating where we are and who we are. I think that our high-speed communication devices have made us feel like we need to be plugged into the grid all the time, and that is also taking us away from the moment, from the present, from just appreciating where we are. We need time to think about who we are and where we're going and what our values are. And those moments of reflection require quiet. They require slowness.
Dr. Lightman has been widely recognized for both his scientific and philanthropic endeavors. In 2006, he received the John P. McGovern Science and Society Award for outstanding contributions to both science and society. In 2008, he received a gold medal for humanitarian service from the Cambodian government. Despite his international recognition, Dr. Alan Lightman remains both humble and grateful.
I'm grateful to my good fortune. Above my desk upstairs, I have a big poster, and it has a picture of about 25 different people who have been influential to me and have helped me in my life. Some of them were teachers, some of them professors, some of them helped me with my work in Cambodia and Southeast Asia. And I have a picture of each one of these people. Some of them have passed away now. But I keep this poster above my desk so that every day I can look up and feel gratitude towards them for helping me in my life. And it's something that I recommend to everyone, to think of the people in your life that have helped you, have inspired you, and get pictures of them and put them together someplace where you can look at them every day so that you can feel gratitude every day.
Many thanks, Dr. Alan Lightman, for your insights about the impermanence of life and the wonders of our universe. We wish you continued success and spiritual upliftment. Kind-hearted viewers, thank you for your company today.